Hello, hello! Today we're going to take a look at Kaiju, a game from Taiwan that is all about being a kaiju. Rawr! This is actually the box to the game. As you can see, there's the name right there, and all the different components are in here, and you will actually use this during the course of the game. Because what this is a very simple family, children's style a dexterity game, essentially. Not just dexterity with the box and the tokens that come with it and the dice that you roll. Well, the dice that you roll is going to determine what you do on the turn. It might be all those different things like slamming your hand down on a token or trying to get your tokens closest to the kaiju itself, but it could also be high-fiving your opponents or trying to shout out "roar" as loud as possible. Does that sound ridiculous? Well, it is, but let's go ahead and take a look at the game before you pass your final judgment. Then we're going to come back. I'll let you know what I think. Oh, but I will say that it's kind of tough to give an accurate overview of this game without other people involved. I don't think you're going to get the full flavor of it, but try to use your imagination. Alright, I'm going to give you a very brief overview of Kaiju. This is a competitive game for 3 to 8 players. It's sort of a party game, mostly for younger players, and you all take control of giant monsters who are trying to be the king of the monsters. Mechanically speaking, when one player takes 6 wounds, the game is going to end. Whoever has the least amount of wounds is going to be the winner. And by the way, you mark wounds with this wax green pen that is included with the game. You're supposed to actually mark them on your own arm. I had trouble convincing most people to do that, actually. But this is all you see in the game. You have these little reference cards that tell you what the different faces of the die do as a reminder, and have Kaiju on the other side. Every player has their own different colored player marker. This has a radioactive symbol on one side and the not at all reminiscent of Godzilla symbol on this side. And then you have the dice tower itself, which is also doubles as the box for the game. You put all the stuff in there, and you'll have to roll dice down this as well at certain points. But for the most part, you don't really need to use it for that. You just have to roll the die. So once you have everything set up, not that there's much to set up, the youngest player is going to roll the die, and basically at that point you just see what happens. That's really the entirety of the game. This is mostly a dexterity game where you're just interacting with the other players in very comedic ways. So for instance, when you roll this side, which is the roar side, all players need to immediately stretch out their arms and shout out "roar!" Now whoever rolled the die is going to have to mark a wound on the player who was the slowest in doing this. This is one of those ones that's prone to have a lot of ties, but try to use your best judgment. The gamma ray, which is this side here, players use one hand to immediately slap another player's token. The slowest player so you'll roll this on the die and just go boom. The slowest player to do this is going to have to take a wound mark by whoever rolled the die. You cannot do this to your own token, by the way. That would be too simple. Then you have the tail swing. This one is different than the others in that you're just going to take your token and you're going to flip it like a coin. Let's see if I can actually... I can't do that on camera without making it jump off screen, but okay. See, I did that. Okay. Alright, whatever. But the die roller is going to roll the token and everyone's going to roll at the same time. Whoever has the same... whoever flipped their token and had the same symbol as the die roller is going to have to take a wound. So if the blue player who just rolled off the table had rolled a Godzilla face, and this is what the red and the green player had rolled, then they would have to, or what they flipped for, then they would have to take a wound, or something like that. Then you have the boom side. The boom side, when this is rolled, 2 players need to immediately jump up. This is kind of hard to illustrate on camera. You have to immediately jump up and high-five another player at the table, double high-five, and go boom! You need to find another player immediately who is willing to do this with you. Whoever is not able to do this is going to take a wound. And if it's a 2, 4, 6, or 8 player game, the slowest team is going to take a wound. If it's got an odd number of players, it's whoever is just the odd man out in that case is going to take a wound. You then have the nuclear attack. This one involves the dice tower, where the players are going to take their tokens, and in turn order they're going to try to toss them as close as they can to the dice tower. The player who has the closest token to the dice tower can paint a wound on whoever is the farthest away. And finally, you have, Finally, you have the trample. This is where, as soon as this is rolled, all players immediately slam their hands down on the die, making like a stack of hands together. Whoever the slowest player is, in other words, the player who has their hand on the stack is last, is going to have to take a wound mark. And that's it. That's the game. Now, obviously, you have two choices here. You can either just roll the die, or you can roll the die down the dice tower if you want to. But either way, that's what you're going to do every turn. That's the main mechanic of the game. Whoever takes 6 wounds will end the game, and whoever has the least amount of wounds is going to be the ultimate winner and the king of the monsters. Now, there is one other thing to this game, and this is the piggy die. By the way, you have to apply these stickers to the dice. I figure I should just mention that at this point. But the piggy die has these little faces of a pig in the feet and the butt for whatever reason. This is a variant, and it's not just like thing you add to the game. It's a whole other way that you play the game. You ignore the other die and all the different player cards, and instead what you do is you'll take the token. Everyone's got their monster token, and then you have the piggy die. Whoever's turn it is going to roll this down the dice tower. And let's see if I actually get it. That worked a little too well. Anyways, just imagine that it rolled. And at that point, depending on how the die landed, you're going to put your token in that spot on the table. So it actually matters here, distance on the table, things like that, because what you're ultimately trying to do is be as far away from the pig as from the monster as possible. Once everyone has had a chance to roll, whoever is closest to the monster is going to have to take a wound mark. So, for instance, if the pig die rolled with the face out like this, you'll put your monster token in front of the pig. But if it rolled with the face down, or then you'd have to go underneath the token would have to go underneath the pig die. And remember, ultimately the goal is just to get as far away from the monster as possible, the giant monster, as possible. That's it. I mean, that's just a really silly variant that they included with this, but that's not the main game. I would say that this is the main game, and a much better game at that. But let's get to my final thoughts. I have a good thing and a bad thing to say about this game. The good thing to say about this game is that I enjoyed it. I was probably slightly inebriated at the time, but I still had a lot of fun. And this is fun. This is fun in a very fun box. A box that, unfortunately, it is a little unwieldy. Mine's actually coming apart. The tail is coming off a bit, and it is clunky. But then again, it looks super cool to have up on my shelf, just like Cat Tower from the same designer. So there is that, but but I like the chunky wooden dice, which is like I think it's the exact same die as the Takenoko Collector's Edition, which is something of note, I guess. So it was cool to see that again. So the components are cool, and because of that, and because of what you're doing in the game, because you're kaiju and you're just having dumb fun, I had a blast with it. So what's the bad thing I'm going to say? That everyone I played with had the exact opposite reaction to it that I did. And I think, unfortunately, that is what this game's fate is going to be, is that you're going to it's definitely more kids oriented. I'll say that, and maybe that's not reflecting very highly on me as a full-grown adult, but those are the people, that's the target audience here. Or parents playing with their kids definitely is going to have the most amount of fun out of this. And I think that the non-child, non-parent adults who play this, like myself, are going to have the most fun when they take it for what it is, which is very simple, very ridiculous and silly game that's probably better with a few drinks. And so that's what I was coming at it from, and that's, having the kaiju theme, which doesn't really necessarily come out aside from the ridiculous things that you do and the cool looking box, but that I still felt and I still had a lot of fun with. But like I said, the people that I played with did not have that mindset, and so this is going to be the type of game with you have to play with the right group of people. There's other games like that for sure that I've played. Like if you're gonna compare this thematically, King of Tokyo, of course, is the first thing that pops into my head. But it's a very different game, even though there is dice involved. It's very, very different. But even with King of Tokyo, I wouldn't necessarily play that with every person. Not everyone's totally going to be into the theme and just chucking dice. And there's no strategy or anything involved to kaiju. It's just who can be fastest, who can slam their hand down the fastest, who can find a partner to high-five the most, who's fastest and going roar, and it's just ridiculous. That's all that it is, and it's more of an activity than a game, but to me, it's a very fun activity. I couldn't no one in my group was willing to mark themselves with the wax pen that comes with the game. I begged them to. They wouldn't do it. But I still did it. Yes, I committed myself to doing it. But still, I had a lot of fun with it. Know going into it how silly that it is. Know who the target audience is. And I think that you're going to get more bang for your buck out of it. If you play a ton of party games with your group, a lot of dexterity games, games like Cranium, things like that, where you play with people who are uninhibited and not really averse to acting ridiculous and doing silly things, or you're not playing next to a group of Eurogamers who are not going to appreciate the loud noise. If you have that environment, you will get the most mileage out of this game. It will be a ton of fun. Just know that going in. For me personally, I like it a lot, and it's so unique compared to any other party game that I have in the dexterity elements mixed with the rolling of the die. I'm not really into the piggy minigame. It's there, but I think the main game is where it's at. It's a lot of fun. Kaiju, I don't know when this one's going to be available internationally, but hopefully it is, because it's a lot of fun, and I think that if they can just improve the box a bit and things like that, I think people will just look at that and be like, I gotta have that. So, thumbs up from me, I like it. My name is Nick, this has been Board Game Brawl, and I'm reminding you to get out there and game every day, in every way. Take care.